Hello, am I audible?
Yes, madam, you are audible, madam.
Yeah, very
Yes,
good
ma'am.
afternoon to all of you.
I will
And I'm
start.
really sorry for the delay. Actually, our director he called for an urgent meeting, so I was just worried that what would happen with the lecture. But I'm really thankful to all of you that all of you waited patiently, and I think we have lost half an hour, but I'll try to cover all the contents within the time which I have been given. So
Yes,
I
madam.
just
I will give you
thought
just
that by the time my laptop is starting, I will start the session on my mobile.
yes, madam. I will start to give you some presentation, madam, your introduction.
Sure, sure,
Then I will hand over the
sure,
session, madam.
sure, sure.
Yes, yes, madam. Hello, participants. Good afternoon. So, welcome to the session 7 of Atal sponsored FDP on revolution and advances in e-vehicles. This session 7 is about power quality issues and grid connected e-vehicles. And this session will be delivered by Dr. Ritula Thakur, Associate Professor, Department of Electrical Engineering, NITR, Chandigarh. I want to give brief profile about Madam. So Dr. Ritula Thakur received BE degree in Electrical Engineering with honors, ME degree in Power Systems with the distinction, and PhD from Punjab University, Chandigarh. Currently, she is working as Associate Professor at National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Chandigarh, India. Dr. Thakur has also worked as visiting scholar in Richard Russell Research Laboratory, Athens, USA. Her research interests are in the area of AI in power systems, microgrid and smart grid, embedded systems and microcontrollers, electrical engineering and information technology in agriculture, quality analysis and detection technology in food materials, sensors, and instrumentation, power systems, power quality, PLC, and SCADA. She has successfully coordinated 2 Arpit courses on Swayam portal in the field of smart grid. She has around 150 papers in various conferences and journals. So we are very happy that last year also Madam was our part of our Atal FDP on robotics, and this year also they are accepted our invitation, and they are here delivering another talk on the session. So we are very thankful from our institution 173 GPT Arpnali. And on behalf of our institution and on behalf of all participants, I welcome Dr. Ritula Thakur, Madam, to our FDP to deliver the session. Thank you, Madam, for accepting our invitation, and the session is yours, Madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your invitation as well as my introduction. So just give me 2 minutes. I'm trying to connect my laptop. Just a minute. Give me just 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. You can take your own time, Madam. No problem.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Is my screen visible to you?
Yes, Madam. It's clear.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Madam. It's visible.
Okay, thank you. So, a very good afternoon to all of you. Once again, my apologies for the late session. As I told you, there was some emergency meeting. So, I'll try to cover all the topics which have been given to me in the given time. And as sir has already introduced me, I'm going to take a session on the power quality issues in grid connected electric vehicles in today's session. And these are the brief contents of all I'm going to cover today. Firstly, we'll see what is the need for electric vehicles and what is the market scenario in India as well as global level. What are the challenges in EVs and the various startups which are there in India as well as around the globe. And finally, we'll be taking a case study on the power quality issues which occur due to the electric vehicles. I'm sure because this course has already started and this is mainly on electric vehicles. You must already have gotten enough overview about what are electric vehicles and why are they required. But just to set the session on pace, I'll give you a brief introduction about the history of electric vehicles. It's not something new. In fact, the first electric carriage was built in 1830s and the first electric automobile was built in 1891 in the United States. So already the stage has been set for EVs, but now in India, it is slowly gaining momentum as we will be seeing in the coming slides. And I have a request to all the participants that please, whatever questions you have, you can keep on writing in the chat box. We'll take up all those questions at the end of the course, end of the session. Now, why are we discussing all this? Why are we here in the first place? Why is this STC being conducted? It's not something new. All of you are aware of that. But I just thought I'll share with you these clippings from newspapers just a few days back that you know that in India, pollution is a big factor. In fact, according to a study, 6 of the world's 10 most polluted cities are in India, and Delhi is no exception to that. You must be knowing that. So, of course, in order to combat this pollution, we need to go towards green engineering, of which electric vehicles are very much a part of. Apart from that, again, according to Economic Times, our Indian oil's import dependence has jumped up to 84%. So at these times when we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, this is a really serious factor which we must ponder upon, that if we want to become self-reliant, even in this sector, that is 84% of the dependence on oil import valid? Because at present, about 16% is only indigenous, and that also in states like Assam, mainly Rajasthan, which are producing oil. For the rest, we have to depend upon the import. And of course, we are pumping US dollars to other countries and other countries. So again, we have to look for alternate technologies in which we don't have the dependence on this oil. So I think there is not much of the debate upon this topic, that why do we need to shift towards electric vehicles or green technologies. But it again comes with its own challenges. The road is not so easy. It's not so simple. There are lots of bumps in there. So what are those? Let us just quickly have a refreshing views on these challenges. The very first factor are the charging infrastructure. So because when we talk about electric vehicles, then how many charging stations are there in India? Especially when I talk about these challenges, I'll be talking about Indian perspective. I'll be talking about Indian perspective. You see, in India, there are about 961 districts, and that accounts for approximately 70,000 petrol stations which we have. But as compared to that, how many charging stations do we have? Can anyone answer? Does anyone have any idea about how many charging stations there are? Any participant can answer there? Yes? No, I'm not talking about types of charging stations. I'm talking about the number of charging stations which are there in India right now. Because I'm going to make a comparison between the petrol pumps, as I said, about 70,000 as compared to charging stations. Mr. Satish, they have now increased up to around, no, not 1,000, but approximately 350 charging stations are there at present. So you can just make a comparison about, like, there is 10,000 of as compared to petrol stations, we have only 350 charging stations. So how does that affect us? You see, for example, if I have a diesel or a petrol car, I have to go somewhere, and let's say the diesel, I have to refill my car. So if I say about the petrol stations, after every 5 to 10 kilometers, you'll get one petrol station. Okay, so I'll just go and refill my car. But as compared to that, how many charging stations are there? Not even, matlab, as compared to 10,000, you can see 300, approximately 300 charging stations. So that is one of the big hindrance which is there. But of course, we are working on that, and government has already sanctioned that by the year 2023, we should be having about 2,900 charging stations, which are to be set up. Then second big challenge is the higher cost. And again, we know that, of course, I'm not going to compare it with Tesla, which costs about 60 lakhs. But still, if we compare the price of an EV as compared to a conventional car, it is always at the higher end. And that is one of the hindrance that people are still, not very comfortable going towards these cars. So this is another challenge before us. The third factor is the lack of technology. Now, when I talk about the lack of technology, again, if I compare with a conventional with a conventional fuel vehicle, then let's say, I'll give you an example. Suppose I own a Maruti Suzuki car, and I fill the tank, the full tank. So approximately, if my car is giving me an average of 15 kilometers and a full tank of about 40 liters, will make my journey approximately 600 kilometers. I will not feel the need of refilling the tank. Whereas if you compare with an electric vehicle, maximum, if we talk about, let's say, Nexon, Tata Nexon, then its maximum kilometers are 300 kilometers. Of course, they are working on it in order to improve the total kilometers which it can run. But when I'm going on a highway, especially on the long drives, then this is again one hindrance at maximum of 300, and that also I'm talking of the higher end. So again, it's almost half of the kilometers it will be covering. So we definitely need to go towards higher technologies for that. Then the fourth hindrance, which is there, is the import of the EV components and the materials. Now, can anyone tell me, if we talk about the battery for EV vehicles, because you are already attending the course till now, so can anyone tell me which battery is being used for electric vehicles? Yes. Which type of batteries are mainly used for EVs? BYD, lithium ion. Okay. So mainly it is the lithium ion battery. But is it being manufactured in India? From where are we importing it right now? Do we have lithium reserves in India? That is one of course, recently we have got some of the findings in this, but still we have to majorly rely on China for the import of these lithium ion batteries. So, of course, you also must be knowing that recently when we had a tiff with China, that there was a ban on import of goods from China. So in such cases, what do we do? If in future we have, God forbid, such a kind of situation, then we need to have some alternative that we don't have to import. Yeah, we can of course go towards our allied countries like Japan, etc. But still, we have to think about that, about these alternate batteries. So as I said, that import of the EV components and materials, although we are manufacturing them here, but mainly for the batteries, we have to depend upon China. And then the next hindrance is the lack of the skilled workforce. You see, again, if I take example of a petrol car, you will get mechanics at every nook and corner of your city. Suppose your car breaks down, you will get a mechanic who can easily repair it. But there is a lot of lack of the skilled workforce if your electric vehicle gets some problems. So that is another challenge. And of course, one more factor which has to be looked upon is the possible disruption in the automobile sector. You see, already automobile sectors, companies like Maruti, Honda, Hyundai, etc., Mahindra, they are already established in market in conventional automobile sector. So we cannot just, shift towards EVs. What will happen to that automobile sector? So all these things are there. So as I said, that the road is not so smooth, it is bumpy, and there are a lot of challenges which are there in the field of EVs. So now let us have a look at the global scenario of EVs. Like there, of course, there's a faster adoption, and as you can see from here, that Norway has been leading till now. And in fact, in case of Norway, about 1 in 33 vehicles, that means 33 approximately vehicles are registered vehicles are plug-in electric vehicles. So it is already close to 50%, followed by Iceland and Sweden with 19% and 8%. And as you can see from this figure, India is still nowhere in the electric mobility sector. In fact, we are only 1%. If we talk about the percentage, as I'll show you in the coming slides, we are only 1%. So still, and as you can see, China is fast growing. China's auto industry, as you can see from here, it's approximately 5%, but it is rapidly turning to all electric and aims at having about 5 lakh public charging stations by 2022. And of course, UK, if I talk about UK and France, they are targeting to be 100% electric vehicles by 2040. So this is a global scenario. And if we talk about the total sales percentage, that the China is leading. So this is the figures in year 2018. So China is leading, followed by US and Norway. So these are some of the EV startup hubs which are going around the globe. And as you can see from here, if we talk about startups, then London has got the highest startups, about 37, followed by Los Angeles, which is having 29 startups. Greater Silicon Valley area has got 28. Then New York City has 21, and Amsterdam is also having approximately 21 startups. So, but where are we? We are talking about the global scenario. Where does India stand here? It's not that we are not working towards it. Indian government is, in fact, putting a lot of stress on the implementation of, electric vehicles on the roads. And it started with the year 2013, in which we had National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, which paid in more emphasis on indigenization of these EVs. And then came the very, you must all have heard about FAME India, which came in 2015. In fact, it was framed in 2015, but was actually implemented in year 2016. Recently, even we have got a second phase also of this. So this means faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles in India. So it mainly emphasizes on technology development, demand creation, charging infrastructure, pilot projects, which should be there. I mean, the main focus of this FAME India is on that. And we are also, you must also have heard about Tesla also. It's coming to India already. In fact, in today's newspaper, only in Times of India, I was reading one article that government has given go ahead to about 4 Tesla cars, the registration of 4 Tesla cars. So this is the news of today morning only I was reading. And in fact, government is also planning on giving export cut on the import of this Tesla cars, which Tata Motors is of course opposing, because you must be knowing that Tata is pioneer in India as far as EVs are concerned, because they say that if you give so much of import cut on Tesla cars, then that will not be aligned with FAME India, which mainly emphasizes on indigenization of the EVs. Then in year 2016, Ministry of IT launched a phased manufacturing program, which was followed by National Mission on Transformative Mobility and Battery Storage in the year 2019. So as you can see here, battery storage. In fact, recently in Bangalore, one startup has, it's very soon going to start up with the manufacturing of the lithium-ion batteries. So hopefully in the near future, we won't have to depend upon China for all this. So this is what, it's not that we are not doing anything, but government is putting a lot of stress, and but still it's a long way to go. And if we talk about market scenario in India, presently, as I told you, that EV market penetration is only 1% of the total vehicle sales in India. And you will be surprised to know that out of these 1%, 95% are electric two-wheelers. And these are followed by buses, and very less of the cars are there. But Government of India has set a target that by the year 2030, we should be having 30%. So you can see from 1% to 30% in a decade. It's a big number, and we need to see how we can achieve this number. And as I already told you that currently, if we talk about the charging stations, there are only 350 charging stations, but Government of India has recently sanctioned setting up of 2,636 number of charging stations across its 62 cities in India. So which will, of course, reduce range anxiety, as I was discussing with you when we were talking about the challenges. So of course, it will reduce that. And I said by the year 2023, we will be having about 2,900 charging stations. But as I said that it's also important that we see that phasing out of the combustion engine vehicles should also be there. So it is at the initial stage. Slowly, government is encouraging. This cannot be done abruptly. So this is, it's in the initial stage. And in fact, if we talk about the numbers in the financial year 2020, EV sales for two-wheelers in India increased by 21% because government started giving subsidy. So because of that, there was a jump of the sale of two-wheelers. As I said, that even in that 1% of the industry, EV industry, majorly 95% are the two-wheelers. And for EV buses, the sales for the same period increased by 50%. However, the market for electric cars remained grim, which had a decline of 5%. However, now, as I said, because of many technological inventions, research institutes are working towards improving the technology, and also it is seeing the improvement. And recently in January 2021, about 15,910 units of EVs were sold in India, and out of these, the maximum units were sold in UP, Uttar Pradesh, which was followed by Bihar and Delhi, as you can see from this figure. So majorly 26% of the sales which were registered in January to December 2020 were in Uttar Pradesh, and followed by Bihar and Delhi coming at 10%, and then West Bengal, Karnataka with 8%, 7%, Assam, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu stood at 5%, and rest of the states stood at 14%. So these are just, for your information. And of course, these are the major startups. You must be seeing these days in television also. There's a lot of advertisement of the Ather Energy. So these are mainly the electric scooters. And lot of funding is being done to these Ather Energy. These are the startups by our young professionals, and they are getting major funding by Hero MotoCorp and Mr. Sachin Bansal also. He also invested, and then there are many other Ola Electric Mobility is also coming, and these are some of the major startups in India. So where do we need to focus? Mainly, as I said, we need to focus on the charging infrastructure. That is very important. We are already working on that. Then we need to go towards R&D in battery technology, because the maximum life of these lithium-ion batteries are 8 to 10 years. So disposal of these electric batteries are also one major problem. So improvement in the battery technology, going for alternatives, like as I said, score for the essential metals. So as I said, that as of now, we are mainly dependent on China for the import of the lithium-ion batteries. So can we go towards some other material which will reduce our dependence? So that is again research area which is going on. And then Make in India EVs, again in alignment with the Atmanirbhar Bharat Mohim, which was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister. So Make in India vehicles, they are also getting a lot of focus. And of course, in the last, EV education, as you all are in this course is being organized. That itself speaks that now we have become aware of going towards this technology, and I'm really happy to see that such courses are also being organized on EV, and all of you are participating. So this is the need of the hour. In fact, I would say that there should be dedicated institutes on electric vehicles. which focus mainly on the development of the technology of EV education. Now coming to our today's topic, that is impact of electric vehicle charging on electric power distribution systems. After getting a brief idea about what are electric vehicles and all the things, challenges and technologies and all, now let us focus on today's topic, that of course we are talking about EVs, but you must have heard of this term like vehicle to grid, grid to vehicle, right? Because when we talk about the EV charging, then apart from consumption of the electricity, another major focus which we have to put upon is the impact which these electric vehicle charging stations are having on especially the electric power distribution systems. So this is going to be my next topic which I'm going to cover with you for today. Now, why is this study required? The very first question is that why do we need to go towards the discussion on the effect of the EV vehicles on distribution system? For that, we need to see this slide, that what are the various power quality issues which occur in distribution system. Now, we know that these EV chargers, they mainly consist of power electronic devices which are non-linear loads. So all these EV chargers, they mainly comprise of the non-linear loads. And we know that those who are familiar with the term power quality, that the non-linear loads will often introduce the power quality issues within the distribution circuits. Now, why distribution? Of course, because all these charging stations are there at a distribution level. Now, what are the various power quality issues which are mainly occurring? These are harmonic distortion, DC offset, phase imbalance, voltage deviations, etc. So in order to explain an effect of the EV charging stations on all these distribution system, I've taken up one case study which was conducted in the Portland State University campus, and there's a electric avenue. So it's basically a joint project between the Portland General Electric and PSU and the city of Portland. So this study mainly focused on harmonic currents. Now, why? Because these have the potential to affect the lifetime of the magnetic assets. Like if we talk about the distribution circuit, then these are the distribution transformers, instrument transformers, power cables, capacitors, then your switch gears, relaying circuits, etc. So they conducted this study. Mainly, we know that harmonic distortion is a deviation of the current or voltage waveform from a perfect sinusoidal shape, mainly caused by the nonlinear loads. And our EV charging stations are nonlinear because of the power electronic components in that. So, as I said, these are nonlinear loads, and because EVs demand a large amount of power, the power quality issues presented by EV charging could have an impact on the distribution feeders. Now, as we said that in case of a nonlinear loads like EV charge controllers, then current distortion is very common due to the need of the using power electronic switches to convert the power from AC to DC form. Because when we talk about the EV charge controllers also, I think you must be knowing that we have mainly three types of charge controllers: type 1, type 2, and DC fast charging controllers. So when we have a need to switch from AC to DC, again we need these power electronic switches which cause these harmonics. So introduction of these distorted currents in the distribution system can distort the utility supply voltage and overload the expensive electrical distribution equipment such as transformers, power cables, capacitors, relay, switchgear, and metering equipment. So they also affect nearby loads, particularly the power electronic devices and the motors. So they are not only confined on the distribution assets, they also have, because these harmonics, they can travel to the nearby loads also, particularly the motors, power electronic devices and the motors. So now if we talk about the transformers, mainly the current harmonics can be troublesome for power transformer. Mainly three types of losses are there. I square R losses. So I square R losses, I think many of you are aware of. For those who are not from electrical background, basically I square R losses are due to the higher order currents within the transformer windings. So what is this I? I is nothing but the current. So if the RMS value of the load current is increased due to the harmonic, we know that harmonics are nothing but, multiples of the fundamental frequency. So when the current increases due to the harmonic component, so you can well imagine I square. So what will be the impact of that increase in the current? So accordingly, all these losses will also be compounded. So how will it affect the power transformer? So with the effect that the power transformers will consume more real power, which is then it is anticipated, thus making the efficiency of the conveying power to the consumers lower. Then the second kind of the losses are eddy current losses. Now these eddy current losses are due to the higher order currents in the core of the transformer, and these currents create an abnormal temperature rise. So what will happen because of the temperature rise? The higher increased temperature, it accelerates the loss of insulation and can ultimately lead to the shorter lifespan of the equipment. And the third type of the loss is the stray flux loss, which occurs in the core, clamp, and other iron components of the transformer. So these stray losses also increase the oil temperature. So you must be knowing this fact that major cause of the breakdown of the transformer is the breakdown in the dielectric strength of the oil. So all these stray flux and companies, our utility have to face a major loss of whenever a transformer breakdowns. So when the oil temperature increases, it causes the hotspot temperatures within the transformer. So this can contribute to the premature degradation of the transformer insulation and oil, leading to eventual failure of the equipment. Now, apart from the transformers, the effect of harmonic current on the power cables is also prominent, and the main effect of harmonics on power cable is the additional heating due to the increase in the I-square losses. We have just discussed these there, and mainly in case of cables, this is attributed mainly to the two phenomena, skin effect and proximity effect. I'll not go into much detail of skin effect and proximity effect because many of you are from multidisciplinary, but just I want to give you an idea about how our appliances are getting disturbed. The distribution assets are getting disturbed. Now, both the skin effect and the proximity effect is because of the function of the frequency as well as the conductor size and spacing, and also the cables which are involved in system resonance may be subjected to the voltage stress and corona. Now this is not that corona which is there, this is another corona effect is different. So this can lead to the dielectric failure in the cables. Then of course these harmonics also affect our switch gears and protection devices like relays, switch gear, metering equipment. The relaying equipment may operate more slowly because of the higher pickup values than the settings, which would otherwise dictate, resulting in unexpected operation. So all these harmonics may cause deviations in the settings of the relay. So you know that relay are one of major part of the protection devices. So if they operate in an unexpected operation, it can lead to huge losses. Then of course fuses may also experience premature operation due to the I-square-R heating by the harmonics. We have already seen that because of the increase in the current component, the I-square-R losses increase, and I-square-R losses basically cause heating. So fuses may also melt prematurely. Then apart from that, we have our CTs and PTs. These are current transformers and voltage transformers which are there. So harmonic currents can also cause heating in these CTs and PTs due to I-square-R, eddy currents and core saturation, again leading to their shortened asset lifetimes. And if we talk about the switchgear, again the presence of harmonics contribute to I-square-R heating, which reduces the steady state ampacity and shortens the lifetime of mainly the insulating components. Now, if we talk about the capacitors, the effect of all these harmonics caused by the charging stations of the e-bays, how do they affect the capacitors is that these may interact with the nearby capacitors. So there is a term called resonance. When the frequency of the harmonic matches with that of the LC time constant of the capacitor, it may lead to error. Apart from that, inherent positive reactance of distribution cabling, transformers and loads can couple with the negative reactance of capacitor banks, resulting in very high voltages and currents at resonant frequencies. Then unexpected increased voltage stress and I-square-R heating within resonating capacitors can result in shortened asset lifetime or the catastrophic failure. So mainly harmonics, they cause I-square-R losses and eddy current losses, which cause heating And whether it is a power transformer, whether it is a cable, whether it is the metering equipments, whether it is the switch gear, whether it is capacitors. So ultimately, because of these heating, because of these insulation failure, it will reduce the lifetime of all these distribution assets. Now, apart from harmonics, there are also imbalances which are created by the EV charging. So as in one of the slide previously, we have seen that harmonics, imbalance in the three-phase systems, these are some of the results of the EV charging in distribution system. Now, what is how does this imbalance affect? So we know that whenever the system imbalance occurs, the current and voltage of one of the phase differs from that in the another. Otherwise, all of them are in phase with each other. But whenever such system imbalance occurs, then it leads to the zero sequence components. So these zero sequence components are nothing but the non-even multiples of triplet harmonics, such as third, ninth, 15th harmonics. And why are these zero sequence components troublesome? Because they mainly add up in the neutral line. So suppose we are talking about a star connected system, they mainly these zero sequence currents, they superimpose in the neutral line and cause excessive currents and lead to conductor heating. And in case of a delta iode system, they just circulate. Okay, so again, this system imbalance due to EV charging is one major cause of worry. Now, this is one case study. As I said, in Portland, there's a place called Electric Avenue, which is situated there, and they have about 6 charging stations. And this is the single line diagram. So these are the 6 charging stations. So they're conducting one study, and this is the picture in which CTs and PTs, as you can see, CTs and PTs were installed to acquire the data, and they used Fluke 1750 power quality meter at the Electric Avenue site to get the data. And what they did is that they connected to each of the individual charging circuits at the site for 1 week, and at the end of each week, the CTs and PTs, they were used to acquire the data, they moved to another circuit to the next. But as I will tell you in the coming slides, that as compared to a single charging station, the cumulative effect of these all the charging station, it leads to a more prominent effect or the generation of the harmonics. And this is one of the result of the THDs. THD is actually one measuring factor. We are talking about harmonics. So THD is nothing but total harmonic distortion. So this figure, as you can see from here, this is that of so all the studies, they were conducted on single phase chargers. Single phase chargers are nothing but level 1, level 2, and 3-phase charger, which is nothing but level 3 or the DC fast chargers. So they were measured, and as you can see from here, the THD, it varied during the course of the charge cycle. This is another major finding also, that it varies. Now what happens is that initially at the beginning of the cycle, they are low. But as you can see from here also, in the beginning of the cycle, the THD is comparatively low, but towards the end of the cycle, there is a lot of deviation. So what we can say that the charge cycle typically starts with large current that decreases as the cycle proceeds. So as I said, that although THD may increase during the charging cycle, magnitude of that of the distorting current is actually decreasing. So we may say that metric of THD may be somewhat misleading, because harmonic content within the branch is getting worse. But actually what is happening is that harmonic content within the smaller current is increasing. So mostly what we do is we take care of total demand distortion as the preferred metric for expressing the impact of the harmonics on the branch or the feeder circuit. Okay, now these are the individual results. Although there were many readings which were taken, but this shows the THD for a single phase charger during the beginning of the charge cycle. Now from these figures, what you can see is that initially, as I said, the effect of the harmonics are not that high. So as you can see that the current is almost sinusoidal during the beginning of the charge cycle. Even from here also, if we see the magnitude of the harmonics, so because it's a 60 hertz system, the fundamental is prominent. And if we talk about third harmonic, it occurs around 180 hertz, and fifth harmonic around 300. They are there, but they are very small as compared to fundamental harmonic. So we can say what is the observation is that at the beginning of the charging cycle, the current waveform is nearly sinusoidal. So we can say that the initially contribution of harmonic components to the current waveform is very small. So as I said, largest peak is the fundamental, as you can see from here, which is approximately 60 hertz, and very small harmonic components can be seen at 180, 300, and 420. As you can see from here, this is 180 is here, this is third harmonic, then fifth harmonic is 300, and very small at 420, seventh harmonic. But as the EV's batteries reach their charge capacity, the power electronics within the charge controller cause the current to decrease. So you can just compare this figure with this. This was initially 2 minutes into the charge cycle, whereas this is approximately 134. I mean, around after 2 hours of the charge cycle, you can see the waveform of the current has distorted. And you can compare these harmonics also. You can see that third harmonic, fifth harmonic, and seventh harmonic, they have become much more prominent as compared to here. And these are some of the tables that they had given, the THD of level 1 and 2, that is single phase charger. So third through ninth harmonic, these are some of the readings, as well as the THD percentage they have given. So you can see that, and this is the total time of the charging cycle, sorry, starting from 2 minutes to 142 minutes. So we can see that initially it was very well within the range from 3.7%. We know that according to IEEE, it should be within 5%. But as the charging cycle came to an end, this had increased to 16%. So we can say that THD changes during the course of the charging cycle, increasing towards the end of the cycle. Now this is the three-phase charger, that is a DC fast charging type. This is type 3. Again, in same readings we can see as like we saw for single phase also. During the beginning of the charging, we can say that all the three phases are perfect, almost sinusoidal, and also they are in phase with each other, because we have seen that apart from harmonics, the phase imbalance also happens because of the charging. And also we see about the fundamental frequency, it is more prominent, and other harmonics are almost very less as compared to this. However, from 20 minutes into charge cycle, this is a fast charging, so that's why we are saying approximately 20 minutes. After 20 minutes of the charge cycle, if we see the waveform and its harmonic spectrum, then you can see that all the three phases, they are nowhere sinusoidal, they are out of phase with each other, and the other harmonics, they have also become very prominent as compared to the previous, initial cycle. So what are the observations? We can say that later in the charging cycle, large frequency components can be seen at third, fifth, seventh, and ninth harmonics. You can see third is 180, fifth is 300, seventh is 420, and then this is a ninth harmonic. So they are much more prominent. Also, we can see that the harmonics of each phase also varies. The FFT spectrum, I couldn't put that figure here, but there was an FFT spectrum which showed that even in each phase also, the harmonic, it differed. So what does it mean? It means that there is system imbalance that may contribute to the neutral current. So this is what I just told you in this slide initially, when we were talking about the system imbalance due to the EV charging. So now in those figures, we have seen that because of the imbalance, now what will happen? Zero sequence components will happen. And these zero sequence components, which mainly comprise of third, ninth, 15th harmonics, they will be troublesome, because in case of star connected system, they will add up to neutral line. And in case of delta wire, they will just circulate. And in case they are superimposed in the neutral line, they will cause excessive currents that can lead to the conductor heating and ultimately lead to the catastrophic failure in the distribution assets. So these are some more more figures which are there for the three phases, just the table which they are given for the three phases, the third to ninth harmonics along with their THDs. This is for phase B, this is for phase C. And as you can see from here also that the harmonics in each phase are also different with each other. And if we talk about the comparison of these harmonics from the initial stage to the final stage, then you can see that it varies from right from 2.2%, where it is almost nil in the beginning of the charging, to it has reached up to 31.2%, which is quite big figure. And it is a cause of worry. We can't ignore this fact. And like similarly, we can observe for phase B also 2.1 to 20.3, and then 2.2 to 27.7. So next, as I said, the total demand distortion, it is one of the more reliable metric for the impact of the harmonic distortion on the feeder or the branch. So basically, total demand distortion, it weighs the magnitude of the current harmonics against the loading capacity of the circuit. So in this case, what happened is that because those studies which were done were for all the separate charging stations, but total demand distortion takes into account the total demand loading capacity of the circuit. So in order to calculate the TDD, the data was collected at the point of common coupling. So in this common coupling, it was actually a service entrance where all the branches of Electric Avenue aggregated into the feeder. And from this data, the TDD for Electric Avenue was calculated. And this is the figure, as you can see from here. So this is basically the total demand distortion on the Electric Avenue feeder, in which 5 chargers were concurrently in use. Because ideally, it happens rarely that all the 5 chargers are simultaneously used. But in order to have a broader overview of, like, because when we will implement so many of the EVs in EV charging station, then it may happen that many different vehicles are getting charged at the same time. So this figure gives you that idea that when all the 5 chargers were in use concurrently, and we can infer from this that the average current for the maximum demand over the previous 12 months. So it was calculated. So they collected the power readings from the site by the set of CTs and PTs, from the figure which I just showed you. So from that data on the power reading collected by CTs and PTs, the average current of the maximum demand, because it's a total demand distortion, was calculated, and available fault current was also calculated. They were provided the drawings, so accordingly available fault current at the point of common coupling was calculated. And from these two calculations, the TDD limit was determined to be 8%, which is fairly within, it is not that high. And it is also observed that the TDD varies as a function of time, though the magnitude of that variation is slight. It can range from about 2.2% to just about 3.2% during the course of the data recording. And they had observed that the low values of the TDD may indicate that despite the THD of the controller. So as I said that despite our THD was very high, but still if we collectively see this is for their own avenue. So what they observed was that despite that high THD of the controllers, the low value of the total demand distortion indicates that the size of the Electric Avenue feeder was sufficient to keep TDD below the 8% limit. So again, once we have become aware that these are the common problems which are created by charging stations, again, further studies are to be done, further designing of our feeder and equipments are be done to keep the TDD below the 8% limit. And also, when they collected the data, at that time, the Airtron level 3 charger was out of service for the calculation of TDD. So this may also, be one of the factor that why the TDD remained so low, because level 3 chargers in which DC fast charging is there, the maximum harmonics are there because of the conversion from AC to DC and all. So this particular charger is a three-phase DC charger with operation of current up to 200 amperes per phase. So if this was operating at the time of data collection, it could have had a substantial impact on the TDD calculation, possibly even causing the defined limits to be exceeded. So now they are becoming happy that we are within limits of 8%, but one of the major factor could be that at that time level 3 charger was out of service. So that could also be one of the reason that why they got the TDD within the limits. Also, while designing the distribution system to accommodate the EV charging, the TDD limit must be introduced, and this is a metric which determine the system component sizing. And then further, what next? Further, appropriate modeling tools are to be implemented. So because of that, the power quality issues associated with the proposed system cannot be accurately described. So what are the major research findings of this? The major research finding was that the power quality issues which are associated with charge controllers have an adverse impact on distribution assets, particularly magnetic devices such as power transformers, cables, metering devices, switchgear, fuses, and your these magnetic devices. And then EV charge controllers exhibit time dependent changes in THD as charges progress during the charging cycle. So we have seen that during the initial 2 minutes of the charging, our current waveforms are perfectly sinusoidal. The THD components were very low. However, as the current decreases, so they tapered. I mean, as the your charging it came to the full cycle, almost, we don't say full cycle, it's approximately 80%. But at that time, the THDs, third, fifth, seventh, and ninth, they increased a lot. And the cumulative effect of the multiple charge controllers on a single feeder, they result in distortion greater than that of a single charger. So this also is one study that it's but obvious. And then their finding was that electric venue was a venue is a robustly designed EV charging station. So it's not like you can just implement EV charging station. You have to design it properly so that you can keep the low values or low levels of TDD and low levels of voltage imbalance and low neutral current. Okay, so I think I have tried to cover all the topics in time. Now we can ask some question, but before that, okay, let me just see if I can show you one video. In the meanwhile, you can just write down your questions in the chat box. So in case you have any questions, you can just write in the chat box. I would like to show you one video till then. Just a minute, in order to give you the video, I think I have to present tab. Okay. Actually, I'm just trying to include the audio. Just give me a second. Can someone help me? Like, how do I open it in Drive? Because when I'm saying open in okay, maybe it's in some separate drive. Maybe that because of that. Can you tell me if I can open a separate drive, like, or do I have to open it only in the drive which is there?
Madam,
Can you help me
actually,
in that?
while sign-in options, you can use another login option, madam.
No. Actually, the thing is that I have that video in the drive of my other account.
Yes, madam. In the next, you can open another tab of same your Google account. There you can take option that use another account option. There you can sign in by using another account, and there you can access your drive, another drive.
Or else I will just try to upload it in here. Okay, we can just see the questions also in the meanwhile. So if I say go to my drive, yeah. Yeah, please let me know if you are able to hear it.
No, madam. The video is not appearing on the screen.
Okay.
I think the video has opened in another tab. Maybe you have to share that tab in your Google Gmeet, Google Meet.
No, but I did that.
Share the tab which is open for that video. Or you can make use of full screen also, madam. No problem.
Normally it does open, like it's, I don't know where, like when I'm share this tab inside.
You can share whole screen, madam. No problem. You can share whole screen and
No,
open.
but when if I share the whole screen, then it will not come the audio. That is the problem.
For that audio, you can just remove your headphone, madam. Then whole audio will be captured.
No. Actually, this has happened earlier also. When I shared the whole screen, then audio didn't go. So when it is a tab which is there, so there's an option of sharing the audio. But the thing is that I don't know why the tab is not getting opened here.
I think the tab which is open, that will only appear in that sharing screen, madam.
But that's what I'm saying. In the tab itself, that video is there, no? Okay, now let me go there. Share it. Tab. Again, it's not showing up. Now can you hear? Can you see the my screen in which video? Can
Yes,
you see?
madam. Yes, madam.
Vehicle to grid could be the biggest tech innovation since renewable energy became commercially viable. But how does it work? Allow the Vox network to explain. Vehicle to grid technology, also referred to as V2G, enables energy stored in electric vehicles to be fed back into the national electricity network, otherwise known as the grid, to help supply energy at times of peak demand. It's considered a real game changer in the EV space because this two-way transfer not only encourages a more active way of consuming energy, it could open up new income streams for drivers, fleet operators, and even vehicle manufacturers. The reason it works is because of the inherently low utilization rate of private vehicles. We may drive our electric car to and from work or collect the kids from school, but for most of the time, this big battery on wheels is an asset just sitting there on the street or on the driveway. Most people are only using a fraction of their battery capacity, and that means there's a huge amount of spare, stored energy that could be providing services elsewhere. Services such as supporting local energy distribution utilities or mitigating the intermittency of renewable energy. And imagine if you could make money from these services when your car is just doing nothing at home. Initially, vehicle to grid is actually grid to vehicle, as the car takes energy from the national grid to charge up. When the battery is full, an inverter is able to move energy from the car back to the grid when there is demand and when the owner is willing. You can set limits on how much charge can be withdrawn to ensure you're never left with an empty battery. The effect of one EV providing this kind of energy transfer is negligible, but if potentially millions of these mobile batteries could be deployed in an instant, they'd become the biggest future assets for all national transmission systems. Energy networks want this technology to work too, because in order to reduce the impact of climate change, each country is shifting its energy mix in favour of more renewables, which creates volatility. Regardless of whether the wind is blowing or the sun is shining, the grid needs to remain balanced. And without vehicle to grid, energy has to be bought from reserve power plants, which means more pollution and increased energy prices during peak hours. But if the energy from millions of car batteries can be aggregated and managed to work alongside the grid, it won't need to rely on more central power plants to fix any constraint issues. If you think this is all a bit future-gazing, think again. There are already large-scale commercial projects underway in Utrecht, where car-sharing projects are able to both support and make money from the grid, while Amsterdam's National Football Stadium also features a large number of V2G car spaces. And while most V2G trials currently underway use CHAdeMO connectors, AC bidirectional charging is also being developed. Doesn't excessive cycling cause a vehicle's battery to degrade faster, I hear you ask? Not necessarily. The single biggest degradation to a lithium-ion battery is time spent at full charge, and with V2G, you're allowing your car to move to a lower state of charge and get paid for it. Secondly, the rate at which you charge or discharge energy from the battery is an important factor, and anode health can actually be improved by low-power, high-frequency cycling, which is how V2G energy transfer is managed. So V2G is a force for good, not only in providing a quick and cost-efficient form of local energy storage, but developing a more democratic energy system where everybody can benefit. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.
Madam, it's disconnected.
Actually,
Hello.
the video is over now, so
Oh,
I
okay.
just closed it. So before I come to your questioning, I would like to ask participants a question. In case you have observed this video, you have listened to this video, I have a question from you, which is there from that, that why is the full charging of lithium-ion batteries troublesome? They mentioned something there, if you have listened to this video carefully. So why is the charging of the lithium-ion batteries reduces their full charging reduces their life? Can anyone answer that? If you had listened to this video, then the answer is there only.
Madam, it's because of dendrite formation,
What is that?
wherein in the electrolyte, the ion passage of ion takes place, and while
Very nice.
reverse movement.
Very nice, very nice. I'm really happy that that you saw the video carefully. So this is also one of the fact which you must know, that because of these issues that we don't go for full charging of our batteries.
But now,
Normally-
Madam, sorry to it.
Mhm.
But now solid electrolyte people are trying. I think
Yeah.
it's going to solve the problem.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. And that's why we need to go towards research in these technologies. That as of now, we don't fully charge the batteries. We mainly charge them up to mainly 80%. But as you very rightly said, that more research is happening on that. How can we avoid these issues and all? Okay, I think it's lunchtime. Most of you must be hungry also. And before that, let us have a quick question answers. That one of the question is that what are the possible reasons for only 300 charging stations across India? Yeah, this is one major factor, that why do we have them? Because it's a recent technology. You see, petrol stations and all, they are here since the time of the development of these fuel cars. But EVs, they have recently come. And as I said, that it's not that you will just give a charging station a site and charging station should be there. You need to design all these things. So gradually there will be more of the charging station. Of course, the petrol stations have been here since time we had the fuel cars. So that is why the number of charging stations are very low. Then why do only odd harmonics are considered in the THD, like third, fifth, seventh? Because they're more dangerous. So as compared to the even harmonics, we can say their percentage was also high. And in fact, among these odd harmonics also, the triplets, which are the multiples of 3, they cause the odd zero sequence components, which I discussed with you. So which mainly cause the circulation of zero sequence components in the neutral wire. So that can lead to that. As maximum distance is about 350 kilometers, so we need charging stations for every 250 kilometers. So when we may get those stations? Yes, definitely. Okay, so can any one of you think of a solution for this? What should government insensitize on this? Like, as you very rightly written in your comment, that maximum distance is 300. Of course, Nexon is next coming up with 500 kilometers also. So one of the thing is that we increase the capacity of the batteries. That is one factor. Second thing, can you think of any idea what should be there? Yes. Can you think of this? Like, what should be there? What steps should be taken to increase this?
Maybe they plan to install maximum charging stations. Maybe they are from natural resources also, madam. That's what I think. Because by using the available resources nearby, if they do the charging stations and power grid stations, then it will be useful, I think, madam. That may be the one possible chance.
Okay. Can anyone else? Can anyone else think of something? Generally, if you think about highways, suppose, so what can happen if you talk about highway? Because as I said that suppose you have to go to 600 kilometers. So as of now, 300 is the maximum range of, let's say, Tata Nexon. But of course, for high-end vehicles like Tesla and all, but then the cost is also high. A common man cannot afford Tesla. Na? So if we talk about those vehicles which we can purchase, so in that case, what can happen? Can you just think about that?
I think I heard some times back that in some flyovers they are installing that energy can be generated by the speed of the vehicles. So by making use of that one also, they can make the things, I think.
Right. That can also be done. Then it can also happen that in the highway we have these roadside dhabas. So even government can give them incentives that at your place, if you put some charging station, it will be win-win situation for both. Like for those who are driving EVs, in the way they stop for the food, and apart from that, they can have this. And then in case we can, in the existing, because as I said that we have to go towards a gradual change in the technology or the charging also. So what we can do is, at least if we have one charging station at every petrol station, I think accordingly we can do. But again, there are a lot of challenges. It's not that simple that you just install a charging station. A lot of infrastructure is required in that. So such kind of thing can be done.
Hi, ma'am. I had this opinion. Like
Yeah.
instead of going with petrol pumps, like naturally they'll not be supporting the EVs because they want to sell their own fuel.
Definitely. Why would they go for competition? Yes.
Yes. What I was thinking is government can take up this initiative of commonizing the battery cells. That, as we all know, number of cells make a single battery. There should be swappable batteries for at least 100 or 200 kilometers of range. Some limit should be set, and the initiative has to be taken by IRDA. What they can do is, if we go to remote places, when I went to Kerala and all, there were these street vendors who were selling petrols in normal stores. They were hanging these cans of 2 liter and 1 liter.
Right.
Everybody has their access to electricity at home. They can sell, they can charge these cells for overnight, and they can come back up, and there should be some kind of device which will show the percentage. Just a simple one. Not, it doesn't have to be very complex,
Costly, yeah.
We
That's
can
very good idea.
yeah, but this has to be I mean uh, initiated and has to be followed up by all the
Actually,
people.
Mr. Naveen, you very rightly said there is a concept of replacing the batteries with the already charged one. In fact, if we talk about the charging stations, not in India, but yeah, in abroad, if you talk about the charging station, there are two types of charging stations. One are wherein you take your electric vehicle, plug in, and whether if it's a fast charging, then you can just wait, or else you can just put it for charging and you can go and wait for come back. Second concept is the battery replaceable charging stations are also there. So in that case, in fact, normally in my lectures, one of my lecture on the role of embedded system engineers in green engineering, I show that video and tell them about that. Then in that case, what happens is that in that station there is a robotic arm which firstly detects which vehicle is there, then accordingly it replaces the empty battery with a fully charged battery. So that replaceable battery is also one thing, because if when we are talking about the challenges, you see there can be another challenge in the time of filling also. Suppose
Yes.
if you're going to office, you go to petrol station and your turn comes, if in 5 minutes you can fill up your tank. Whereas in case of charging station, you have to wait for, even if you talk about the fast charging station, at least 30 minutes or 60 minutes are there. So in those cases wherein you can just already charged batteries are there, you can just replace them. And as you very rightly suggested, there can be vendors on in the highway or some streets who can for your Tata Nexon, okay, this is a fully charged battery. I think this can be a very good initiative which can be taken up. And for those who want to go towards startups, I can tell you in coming times there is going to be a boom in this. Of course, as I said, there are a lot of challenges, but still there, because government is giving lot of incentives. Government is really putting, because our government is like, by the year 2030, we need to have 30%, EVs. So from a figure of 1% going towards 30%, how will it be achievable? More and more, hands they are to be handshake is to be done. So if you talk about startups and all, lots of companies, they are ready to give funding for that. So you can also, for those who are thinking about that, this field can really be a one in which you can think about. And then all the research areas can be there, as in battery management, and then technology for battery, all these things, improving efficiency, of course, that is one.
Madam,
Yes.
on one side, the government is supporting ethanol, and on the other side, it is supporting EV with the target. So they really want to go in hand in hand, I mean parallel, or what is the real, scenario at by 2030?
Yeah, no, when I'm talking about 2030, I'm saying the share of EVs in the total automobile should be 30%. So, of course, there will be, this will be when we will not be depending upon oil. So, of course, there has to be gradual shift towards EVs, because ultimately oil reserves and all, we have to, they are also depleting. And as I said, that the import has already reached 86%. We have to reduce that dependence also.
Yeah.
In India, if you talk about oil, which states are there? Mainly Rajasthan or Assam. Some gas, gas reserves are there in Mumbai, but majorly we have to depend upon the import only. So that is why so much of stress on EVs are being given by the government.
Yeah, because when I gone through some recent reports, by 2022, there will be around 10% of ethanol is mandatory, and by 2025, it should be 20% ethanol, something like that. So there is one side, government is supporting biofuel, and on the other side is supporting e-vehicles. So
Because it's not only EVs, you see a lot of research is also being done on alternatives, like recently hydrogen cell. If you talk about hydrogen cell, so even those vehicles are also one alternative, because this is also one of the question of debate, that at one time we are saying that okay, we need to go towards EVs because we want to reduce the pollution, because we want to reduce the fossil fuels. But at the same time, if we talk about this factor, that from where are EVs getting charged, from where are they getting the electricity? It is again from the fossil fuels only, no? So somewhere that thing is being compromised. So one thing is that we need to shift towards the charging of these EVs also through the renewable energy sources. Second thing, as I said, that apart from this, there are alternative technologies like hydrogen cell, as I said. Recently, IIT Madras has developed one technology by which, instant charging, instant development of the hydrogen fuel. It can be done from the water. So all such alternatives are to be seen. And also, if we talk about electric vehicle, it is not only fully electric vehicle. There are hybrid electric vehicles also, in which there is a combination of the gasoline and your electricity. So even we have hybrid vehicles also. Okay.
yeah, madam, thank you. Yeah.
Madam, is the same charging conditions apply to mobiles also? Means as you told that 100% charging may decrease the battery efficiency. So is the same thing apply for all the electronics materials, electronic appliances?
No. It depends upon the material of the battery which is being used. It's not a universal thing. It will depend upon, like for EVs, if you have lithium ion, and for that particular electronic devices which battery is being used. For example, your laptops, mobile. So it will depend upon the material. And and as one of the participants has also talked about the dendrites, which are the issue. But again, in that case, also research is being done to improve that, whether we can go for the fully charging also.
Okay, madam, another one is there is the speed can affect the battery efficiency, because what we have known is for electrical vehicles, the speed is very less. That is the thing. But in Tesla and all those vehicles, it is very high. But is that make any effect on the battery efficiency or the mileage? That means the range that may be lower or anything.
I'm sorry, I have not studied much about that. Like, how can the speed affect the battery efficiency? But yes, maybe people are working on that. For example, even in our conventional fossil fuel cars also, if we say that we drive at, eco speed, then you will get the best mileage. But if you go towards higher speed, then there will be, the mileage of the fuel car will reduce. So maybe it can happen that the speed can affect the battery efficiency, but I don't have any idea about that. I haven't actually seen this aspect.
Yes, thank you, madam. Any other questions from participants? Kindly unmute and ask yourself. Any questions? Okay, if any participants don't have any questions, then we will close the session, this one. Any questions? Okay. I think, madam, they don't have any questions, I hope. So thank you, madam, for accepting our invitation and to be a part of our FDP. Last year also you have given one session, and this year also you have taken another session here. And we will hope in the future also we will get a lot of support from you, and you will be resource person for our another upcoming Atal FDPs, madam. So it's a very nice session. As usual, we have watched a lot of sessions from you in NITIIT Chandigarh website also. So we are very happy by seeing once again you in our Atal FDP. So we are very happy for that, and hope all the participants has gained a lot of knowledge regarding these things. So thank you for accepting our invitation and to be part of our FDP, madam. So we are heartfully thanked from our institution and all from our participants. We thank to you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you also for giving me this opportunity to speak in this very important topic, that is EVs. And I'm really happy, as I said, that you're organizing this very useful ICT on revolution and advances in e-vehicles. This is, as I said, that in initiative, this education of EV is also must, you know, and so you have already taken a step in that by educating people about the advances in initiatives, advances in electric vehicles. And once again, I would like to thank all the participants also for your very patient listening. And I'm sorry for a bit of delay, because you know you can also understand that suddenly, you know, there are certain unforeseen circumstances when you can't you know, start the class in time. But still, I think I have covered all the things which I intended earlier, and I enjoyed thoroughly. Seriously, I'm telling you, I enjoyed thoroughly taking this session, because the participants, they were interacting, they were answering. So, you know, this gives an encouragement to us also. Right now, though, because of this technology, we are just facing through laptop only. So it's really heartfelt when we hear from you people also. And I hope that in future we will come there and we'll meet in person. That will be more, you know, I'll be happy. And when things improve, I welcome all of you. I invite all of you that you please come to NITIIT at Chandigarh also for the sessions.
Yes, madam. Actually, we are also looking for the sessions directly handling from our institution, from NITIIT at Chandigarh. Even last year, when we are asked to Ashok sir also, they are said the same thing from science department. Yeah, they said the same. So that they will come here and they will organize the sessions if everything is okay.
Yeah, I would like to announce here also, because hopefully the things will improve soon. So even those from government organizations, in case you are interested in conducting in future, there is now this year, so all courses are going to be online. Even our courses are also going to be online till December. But in future, in case you want some of the courses to be organized at your place, so you can just give a request to us, especially the government colleges. But because for the private colleges, there are a lot of, you know, the things, the formalities. But for government organizations, we can just come there, and there are like all the expenses will be in fact also handled by NITIIT only.
Yes, madam. We have all the
also there.
Yes, madam. We have already discussed a lot of things about that one. Before, within that, Corona came and disrupted all our plans. Hopefully, in the future, we will definitely conduct one program, and we will invite all of you to here. And definitely, it will be going a very big one.
We also have PhD and MTech here in NITIIT. So we have very good research facilities. We have recently established a Center of Excellence in Hardware in Loop in collaboration with Typhoon HIL and Opal RT. And many students, they are already working here. We have some industry sponsored PhDs also. Typhoon HIL Switzerland is sponsoring one PhD candidate. From time to time, we keep on advertising that also. So you can just go towards go in our website, or else in my LinkedIn also, in case I think most of you must be there. So you can just check my LinkedIn account. There also recently we had advertised one PhD position which was sponsored by Typhoon HIL. So they sponsor one candidate, paying him rupees 28,000 per month. So such kind of avenues are also there, and we would be most glad to have you here.
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam. And also I thank Sudhakar Rao sir again for considering your name for this FDP. Even last year we have done this one, but I don't have again idea to whom to we have to invite for this. Again, I asked for Sudhakar Rao sir, and they again insisted your name.
I think last time we took a session on robotics.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Yes.
So thank you, madam. Thank you for accepting our invitation and to be a part of this one.
Once again, thank you to all of you, and please take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So instructions. Kindly join back by 2:30 p.m. for the next session. That is will be handling by Dinesh Palasubramaniam sir. They are joining from Thailand. Kindly join back by 2:30 p.m. Thank you. Thank you so much.